When I was growing up, that was about the time when Japanese anime really started becoming popular in the United States, and broadcasters were pulling over and localizing a wide variety of shows. Some of them were series that defined a generation of anime watchers and managed to stay relevant to this day, such as One Piece, Sailor Moon, and Dragon Ball Z.
El Kamehameha, apártense, Goku va a lanzar el Kamehameha con toda su fuerza.
Others were the ones that we remember enjoying, but are more relegated to the past. For example, Zatch Bell, Card Captors, and Monster Rancher. Yo, just saying those names sent nostalgia shivers down my spine, man. From time to time, I would think of a series that I used to have a lot of fun watching and wonder where it fell on that spectrum. Now that series is of course Shaman King, and I could never quite tell how important of a series it was. Like, I know lots of people who remember that the series existed and broadly what the plot was, but on the other hand, it wasn't talked about very often, and the anime had of course come to an end years ago, so I was at a loss. And aside from dedicated fan forums, finding someone who had seen or read all of it was just about impossible. So imagine my surprise when I heard that Netflix was rebooting the anime. Actually, no, not that much of a surprise. Netflix's IP necromancy is actually pretty widely known at this point. So now here comes the question. Is Shaman King actually a shonen legend or a relic of the past? Is the Shaman King reboot actually worth checking out? Like and subscribe where your soul is mine. To answer this, let's start with the basics. Shaman King is a series about a boy named Yo Asakura. Yo is from a prestigious family of Japanese spirit mediums known as the Asakura clan. Yo isn't like your average shonen protagonist though. Yo is chill. Extremely chill. To the point where his hobbies are like staring at the sky and doing nothing. And his main goal is just to live an easy life. But look, he's got weed on his shirt. He rips fat clouds, dude. Usually, anime protags chase the Hokage, Pirate King, blah 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 master titles so they can be the best there ever was and get everyone to acknowledge their strength. Yo couldn't care less about any of that. His only reason for chasing the titular Shaman King title is, well, because being Shaman King means that you get the easiest life, of course. But even then, he doesn't chase that goal in a traditional sense. I'll explain that more in a bit, but Shaman King is actually unconventional in a number of ways. Anyway, back to the plot. His older twin brother named Hao Asakura is actually a reincarnation of his ancestor who is just hell-bent on being the strongest and becoming the Shaman King and pretty much wiping out humanity. So Yo and his spirit ally, the ghost of a samurai named Amidamaru, and the friends he makes along the way, take on the Shaman Fight Tournament, the winner of which becomes the Shaman King. Basically, this world's version of God. Yep, that's right, another God tournament. Buckle up, folks. So this all sounds pretty cool at face value, right? It's like Digimon, but instead of partnering up with digital monsters to fight, the characters use everything from monsters to nature spirits to gods to the souls of actual human people. Which is a little mildly upsetting. But anyway, I definitely had fond memories watching and reading this series as a kid. The anime was dubbed and localized, but I never managed to watch it until the end. It is indeed a tall order to try tuning in every week on a somewhat long-running series. But I do know that the original anime that aired differs from this new reboot in a few ways. At the time that the original anime was airing, the Shaman King manga was actually still being made as well. So the anime studio had to kind of Game of Thrones it a little bit and just make up an ending. Another difference is that while the localized version of the anime is exclusively for children, the reboot is made with a much more lenient stance on violence and gratuity. Not quite to the level that the manga took it, but definitely a lot more. One thing that I think makes Shaman King unique among shonen is its main character, Yo Asakura. As I already explained, he's really chill, but it's more than that. He's also very wise and able to look at life in a way that most others can't. He can give guidance to other characters in a way that transcends the typical talk no jutsu. Good or bad, ally or enemy, he can understand people on an internal level and help them in ways that they didn't even know that they needed. Early on in the series, when Yo goes up against his rival, Ren Tao, or Tao Ren if you want to be weird about it, he's able to grasp that his way of fighting isn't out of evil, but out of an inner conflict stemming from his survival of the fittest upbringing, being mercilessly trained by his father to be the ultimate shaman, among other edgy boy things. Yo, and later on Yo's dad, are able to teach Ren that being the strongest isn't about crushing others, but about learning what you can from them and understanding your own limits. At that point, you could probably even call it therapy no jutsu. Yo is even able to channel other spirits besides Midamaru in order to give insight beyond his own, like when he takes on Ren's sister Jun and her zombie ally Lee Pyron. Lee Pyron, a sort of Bruce Lee-like actor and martial artist, killed by Tao Ren's family and turned into a weapon basically. He's at the mercy of Ren's sister being made into a mindless weapon, and just when all hope is lost, Yo is able to channel the spirit of Lee Pyron's old martial arts master, really give him some perspective on what he's been going through and how he can kind of make things better. As I said, very therapeutic approach to a shonen battle manga. The channeling other spirits thing is dropped early on and doesn't show up as much later on, but it just goes to show you how Yo operates. Once his team is fully realized, he becomes an almost religious leader for them with his Zen Buddhist approach to combat. Speaking of the team, I'll talk about some of the other characters now. The Shaman Fight Tournament is the crux of the Shaman King story, a tournament arc that encompasses 95% of the plot, and as such, characters must be part of teams to participate. So, as the series goes on, Yo accumulates a team of fighters to compete with him. The other characters all have their own baggage and are dealing with things in their own ways. Though I will say some internal conflicts are stronger than others. Early in the series, Ren murders one of the officials of the Shaman Fight from the Patch tribe, and spends the rest of the series regretting and punishing himself for such a needlessly violent action. Ren's development from a destructive villain to a proud shaman is a long road, but there's a decent amount of emotional payoff for the character. And then you have characters like Ryu who don't really get to do much. There's a small subplot about him wanting to get stronger and find where he really belongs, but it's really not that deep or interesting. And forget about Manta, he literally exists so the shaman characters can explain things to the audience. Faust, Lyserg, and Horo are pretty cool. They all have interesting backstories and their abilities are amazing as well. Faust's spirit partner is his dead wife. That's metal AF, man. And even though Faust doesn't necessarily get to develop quite as much as Lyserg and Horo do on their journeys to get over their personal traumas and achieve their goals, he does manage to keep up as a decent support character. I almost forgot to mention Anna, and that's because she sucks. She's bland and she doesn't add much to the team dynamic, especially personality-wise. Par for the course in shonen anime, sadly. Now, let me dedicate a segment to my man Jocko, or as he's known in the Japanese dub, goddamn Choco Love. The hell, Takei? Because there's a lot to unpack here. So, Choco Love McDonald is a fascinating character among fascinating characters. I can only imagine what the mangaka was smoking when he wrote this guy's story. Okay, so get this. Choco Love grew up in New York City, and when he was young, his parents died, and he was left homeless until he was taken in by a street gang. But he wasn't just raised by them, he was, and I'm not exaggerating, their main executioner. And these grown men in the gang would have this 10-year-old just show up and murder people with a gun. To the point where he tried to take some time off from the gang life to do shaman training, and they went out of their way to find the guy that he was spending time with and murder him. But before he died, he gave Chocolove, his spirit ally, a ghost jaguar named Mick, as well as his goal to make the world laugh. But yeah, he wants to heal the world with comedy, I guess. Dude, actual hell to K. Anyway, that shit is wild. So first off, not even to turn this into a race discussion, but yeah, the backstory, not my favorite for a black character. Even his original design was iffy. So in the reboot, they even went as far as to change it to something more acceptable. However, they didn't really touch his backstory at all, which, again, yikes. But here's the thing. Because they didn't change the backstory at all, it allowed Chocolove to have one of the more emotional moments in the series. You see, during his gang days, they established that on Christmas Eve, Chocolove killed a man just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It turns out that that guy that he killed was a Jewish scientist and shaman who had created a super powerful golem mecha. More like an Eva because it has his dead wife's soul in it, but never mind that. But after he died, his two children, Red Seb and Seiram, decide to use the mecha to track down their father's killer and get revenge. But now, that killer is reformed and on a different path in life. Now, that on his own is pretty interesting. You could make a series about just that. Just like with Ren, learning the consequences of a character's actions and having them reconcile it is pretty good stuff. They even go all the way with it, and the kids do end up taking their revenge and killing Chocolove. But see, the thing about Shaman King, just like with Dragon Ball, is that death is more of a suggestion than a fact. And he comes back to life soon enough, just without his eyesight, which is, I guess, penance for him killing their father. And after that, they're more or less square. He even makes up with the guys that killed his old master. They even come out and support him during his shaman fight matches. Until they get murdered. The ending of the Reboot anime, the true ending of the series, is a real trip. Remember how I said that Yo doesn't chase the Shaman King title in a typical way? Being one large tournament arc, this series has a lot of antagonists. Like a lot of antagonists. Most of them boil down to being Hao's lackeys and don't end up doing much more than that. Though there is kind of a cool moment between Big Guy Bill, one of Hao's main henchmen, and Yo's team where they save his life, and while refusing to join them, he does pay back the favor by giving them a helpful hint. And other antagonists aren't really antagonists at all. They're more like other participants in the shaman fight who pretty much want the same thing as Yo, to stop Hao from destroying the world and becoming Shaman King. I could be here all day digging into each and every team and character. There's a ton of freaking characters in this series. So let's talk about the big boss, Hao Asakura. And if we're talking about him, we can also talk about the series finale. The ending of the Reboot anime, the true ending of the series, is a real trip. Remember how I said Yo doesn't chase the Shaman King title in a typical way? Okay, spoilers, okay? Okay. Yo's twin brother Hao was a real piece of work, and he's the strongest character in the series. No one can ever beat him or work around his power. He is the one who will win Shaman Fight and become Shaman King. And Yo realizes this pretty early on. He knows that there's no amount of training or strategy or last minute saves that's gonna beat Hao. He's been preparing for this for centuries, and his victory is inevitable. And just this level of acceptance is pretty rare for a shonen battle anime, where 14-year-olds who don't know squat can like pull up on a 1,000-year-old demon lord and just finesse a win out of that. Hao becomes a Shaman King and wipes out every single character. Every single man, woman, child, and spirit in his way. Hao becomes God. Long story short, he was this Japanese kid from a long time ago, and some assholes killed his mom and ruined his life for no reason, so he came to hate humans and went through life planning to wipe them out. And after using a reincarnation technique, he took on new lives and slowly accumulated the terrifying power that he would come to have in the present day. But when you look at Hao on the inside, there's a lot more to him. Hao doesn't care for most people because they themselves usually don't care for him. They just fear his power and want to be on the winning team. He acts really calm and cheery, but he's actually constantly being bombarded with the thoughts of others, and it's agonizing. But despite this, he has come across people that he can genuinely care for. His first friend, Ohachio, and then Matamune, who's a cat, and then Opacho, who's just an Opacho. Hao has deceptively complex feelings once you go below the surface. So, back to the end of the world, Yo and his team don't intend to kill Hao. They plan to help him. They want to turn him into a proper Shaman King, free of the hatred and pain that made him what he is. After being killed and assimilated into Hao's great spirit, Yo and pretty much every other character they met along the journey just show up and give Hao their wisdom from beyond the grave. They reunite him with his mother, who he lost at that young age, and they promise that they'll find a way to fix the parts of humanity that Hao would come to hate so much. That's right, they don't fight to uphold the status quo. They actually fight to make a change on their own terms. And with that, Hao restores the world, keeps his throne, and the characters get to start over and strive for a better future together. Hao does give them a time limit, and promises that if they don't make a change, then he'll be back to finish what he started. But he is interested to see if they can live up to that promise that they made to him. And that's way more interesting than the 2001 anime's ending, which is basically just combine all our powers and kill the bad guy. Yeah, that move. So I've said this much, and I haven't even talked about the world that much. It's a world where mythology and lore feel so alive and vivid and diverse. They managed to take so many different forms of spirituality from all across the world, from Horohoro's Ainu background to Mexican culture to Scandinavian culture to Jewish to Middle Eastern. The series even has a sort of heavy focus on Native American culture through the Patch Tribe. Through the Patch Tribe, fictionalized as it may be, but not many other anime series have come close to that level of worldliness. Shaman King is by no means a perfect series. Its weak points are mainly stretches of the story where it gets somewhat complacent and repetitive during the tournament. Also, as far as the anime goes, it speeds through training arcs and other important details to reach the next plot points. Also, the animation is okay at best. I don't think there was ever a point in this series that really impressed me visually. Maybe the final fight, but not really. However, through the strength of the art and character designs, it makes up for that a lot. In a I'd love to have a figure of this dude on my shelf kind of way. But aside from those things, Shaman King is definitely a solid piece of work and a hard-hitting one when it wants to be. So, is Shaman King a true shonen legend? Is it top tier? Yes and no. Shaman King is a sprawling spiritual epic that hits you with everything it has and a little more if you're willing to dig into the real-world mythological, religious, and cultural inspirations it draws from. And I don't really know the math on this, but 52 episodes for 300 chapters of manga might seem like a bit of a squeeze, but if you're willing to put up with that, then, you know, you can experience the whole thing. Also, as I said before, the animation was serviceable but never eye-catching. With Netflix anime, it's always a toss-up how high that animation budget will land. And it's a shame, because there are some really stellar battles that could have used a little bit of that Sakuga magic. Just a little bit. So there it is, folks. Shaman King, the Shonen Jump pillar of old that came back for another try. Netflix is already working on the sequel series called Shaman King Flowers, starring Yo's son, Hana Asakura, and I'm really interested to see where they can go from here. There are actually a bunch of spin-off mangas that were made from the series, and so they have tons of material to pull from if they really want to deep dive into this world, and I will be there for it. So, while I can't quite call it top tier personally, it is definitely worth a watch. Hey, if you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. I'm curious to know your thoughts on the series. Like I said, I haven't gotten the chance to talk to any real Shaman King fans, so I want to know what y'all have to say. If you liked the video and want to see more, do me a solid and hit the like button. Hit that subscribe button while you're at it. And I have an Instagram page and stuff too, so hit me up there. With that said, I'm out of here. Peace.